Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Irwin. I'm the Chief Communications Manager for the City of Arvada. I am here joined by Linda Haley, who's the Director of Human Resources, and we'll get to know her a little bit more. Today, we wanted to have a conversation about recovery from COVID-19. We haven't really done one of these in quite a while. We've tackled things like frequently asked questions we've gotten, business recovery. We talked about how to do good neighboring and connect with your neighborhoods and community during a time of physical distancing. And now it's time to talk a little bit about recovery. We're entering a phase where we're going to be, we continue to open more services and facilities to the community. And so I thought it would be a good time to invite Linda to come and talk with us about that. And so Linda, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and what your role is generally, and then what it is right now.
Sure. Thank you, Ben. Hi, everybody. My name is Linda Haley. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the City of Arvada. And that is my normal role, but in light of COVID-19, I am leading the recovery efforts on behalf of the city with a team of individuals from across the organization. So that is taking up the bulk of my work, as you can probably guess.
We're really lucky that you've been able to take this on as a hopefully a temporary thing, but I think as we see, or as we're probably going to talk about, recovery journey is going to be a long one.
Absolutely.
How we got here, though, is since the last time we had one of these COVID conversations, we've been, receiving a direction from our state and local health officials, and then working to understand how to interpret that and apply that for our community. So people who are watching this will probably recall that there has been emergency declaration that has been continued that allows the city to have some flexibility in how we respond to the crisis. And then we've kind of taken a kind of bi-weekly approach to evaluating our services and facilities. And generally over the last few months, facilities have been closed. And then within the last month, over the course of May and into June, we've slowly started to reopen some of our facilities and services. So I expect that we'll kind of get into some of those details. But before we get into that, I was hoping we could start the conversation, Linda, by just hearing your thoughts on what is recovery. Can we define it in our context of a COVID-19 crisis and for our community?
Sure. So, the word recovery itself kind of implies that it's a return back to normal. And we've learned so many lessons throughout dealing with this crisis over the last few months that it'll be hard to return to a true state of normalcy. So really looking at charting a new path in this new world that we're all living in is the theme of overall recovery for us as a city, and learning our lessons, documenting those, ensuring that we're building resiliency throughout the organization, which can then, of course, lead to a really resilient community. And so for me, and I think for Arvada, the word recovery is not only responding to this crisis and really ensuring that we're continuing to support our community, but it's learning from this crisis and taking opportunities that we've found from this crisis to come out stronger on the other side. So returning to that sense of normalcy is, I'm sure you've all heard the word, the new normal, acknowledging the fact that we still have to maintain our excellent levels of service to our community and our organization, but how can we do that in light of this crisis in a better, reimagined, more efficient way is part of recovery as well.
Yeah, I'm particularly proud of the fact that as an organization, we committed to recovery early on.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of, as we were grappling with responding to COVID-19, we built recovery into our response right away, which I think contributed in part to supporting the business community and their Arvada Resiliency Task Force, and a host of other different focus areas that we were looking at as we tried to deal with this crisis. When we talk about our approach to recovery, are there any, what are the kind of focus areas or main, main key points that have guided us from the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, Ben, really leveraging the community partnerships that we have and strengthening those partnerships building our capacity as a partner for others is a big theme that we've been using throughout our recovery focus. We've got focus around our economic recovery. So not only for our business community, but for our organization as well. We have a focus around what we're calling unmet human needs. So ensuring that our citizens who are in most need and most impacted by this can benefit in some way too with the work and efforts we're putting forth. Looking at our infrastructure systems and how those are all impacted by this crisis and how can we change and improve those in the new normal. Ensuring that organizationally we're meeting the needs of our employees to further our efforts and to support not only them as professional, but as in their personal lives as well, because all of that plays a role in how effective we can do our jobs on behalf of the city of Arvada. Ensuring also that we're looking at our engagement with the community and continuing to ensure the trust of our citizens and involving the community in how we're making our decisions has been a key element of our recovery efforts.
That's really helpful. You know, I think that as a resident of Arvada, there's a personal level to the response. Obviously, a little bit of fear early on, concern for sure. And I think maybe some people watching this might not appreciate that the city of Arvada has somewhere in the order of about 750 employees. You're the HR director, you probably have the exact number, but it's a large organization. And so you mentioned caring for our team. I think it's probably helpful to just hear some of the things that we've done for city employees, because it might help people who are watching this understand how other large organizations, we're not doing anything that other organizations across our community are having to confront. Could you give an idea of kind of what are some of the things that we've done as a city for the city team to make sure people are safe and comfortable and supported?
Absolutely. Yeah, Ben, you're right. We have around that 700 full-time, fully benefited employee population, along with several temporary and seasonal employees as well. And like many organizations out there as well, we have a lot of what we're calling those frontline essential workers that have been continuously working throughout this crisis. And while we're able to look at some of our employees and create remote working options for a significant portion of our workforce, we also have to pay attention to that portion of our workforce that has been out there in the field on the front lines throughout this. So really, we have focused our efforts in support of all of our employees around constant, ongoing, resourceful communication, ensuring that we are trying to connect with them as best we can and understand that we are truly all in this together. We have been very sensitive to the fact that this has taken a toll, not only on all of us as professionals with stress and anxiety, and you know, there's that fear of the unknown, but paying attention to the fact that that is also impacting our employees' personal lives. We all have families, we all have our own stories to tell in light of this crisis. So how can we as an organization support all sides of an employee's life? And we've taken steps to do just that, whether it's consulting with the individual employee and their personal needs to try to work out situations for them to work remotely or care for family while they're working, to providing extra PPE, safety equipment, other things that are needed for those frontline employees to do their jobs in this new normal in a more safe and healthy manner. So structurally, we've made a lot of changes to our facilities to allow for increased hygiene, cleanliness, sanitation, disinfection. We've supplied masks to all of our employees. And then we're also trying to make ways to provide ways to keep those connections. So we've had a couple of all-employee town hall meetings with our city manager and our city council. I think that was very well received by our employees to just show that we understand and can appreciate the difficulties of this situation, and we want to make sure that they know that, and we're consistently trying to stay on top and be proactive with our communications to our employees.
Yeah, I can personally attest to feeling that care and communication, and obviously being able to support some of that communication, but also benefiting from it. So,
Yeah.
you mentioned the physical space. I think one of the intents of this conversation, it's going to come out about at a time when our community has the opportunity more of our community has an opportunity to come on site onto our facilities. And so you mentioned changes to the facility that have helped protect our team, and that's great. But also maybe you could just set it from the customer's perspective as they come on site. What sorts of changes are they going to see when they come in for a visit?
Sure. So yes, we are planning on the reopening of our city facilities to in-person services. And I do want to remind everyone, we've been carrying on our services for the most part throughout this crisis, and have been, truly fully operational in many respects. Just looks a little different, feels a little different, and that's going to continue even with our facilities being open to the public. We are learning new, better ways to service our public, whether it's through technology or virtual means. And we know that we're in the midst of this pandemic for a very long time. And so to ensure the safety of our citizens and our employees, we are going to continue to promote these new methods of delivering service, even with our buildings open. So what does that mean to the public? When you walk into our facilities, you're going to see a temperature monitoring device. You're going to see signage that is requiring you to wear a mask when you come into our buildings. You're going to be greeted by city staff that will be helping direct you to the people you need to go to. Ideally, we would like to, and we are, educating our public through our website to ensure that if you cannot at all possible create an appointment and establish a connection with a city employee prior to visiting the facilities, the employees know to expect you. We can control the access so that we can service your needs effectively and not have to make people wait, because we're limited, quite frankly, by the number of people we can service at one time. So those are things to expect as a citizen. We will have plenty of signage available. Lots of social distancing measures are put in place that you'll see in our facilities, and you'll see just structural changes like glass or window types of barriers to protect you and employees in servicing your in-person needs, those kinds of things to expect.
That's great. And of course, masks, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's
Yes.
a point. That's a point we should underscore, is that as I walk around the neighborhood in my own community, I sort of see people outside not wearing masks, which I think, depending on where we are with our safer at home orders, I think that there's some flexibility for not wearing masks outside. But when we're inside, we're always wearing masks here. And I think it's important for the community to know that that's the expectation and the requirement. And then we have disposable masks. If you come on site and don't bring one with you, we'll have one for you.
Yes, absolutely. We really want to respect that. Our state is continuing to message that as well. We're following best practices. It's a simple gesture to protect yourselves and others in this time of uncertainty, and we will require you to wear a mask when you come to our facilities.
Great. You kind of mentioned some of the big takeaways, but a couple of times in the conversation, Linda, you've talked about the importance of learning things. Can you talk more about what that looks like and how we might apply our experience to even deliver better customer service in the future?
Yeah. There has been no question a new level of learning throughout this crisis. And I'm grateful that as an organization, we have put into place, and Ben, you mentioned this earlier, we've had a focus on disaster recovery as part of our operational planning for quite some time. And so I'm fortunate that we've had the plans in place to then build off foundationally on how we're addressing this crisis and moving forward and becoming more resilient and stronger when we get to the other side of this crisis. And so in part of this planning, it's just crucially important to literally document those lessons learned and understand how can we learn from this experience so that we're more prepared should something like this, I hope never happens again. But it's important to know that in times of crisis, the ability to be nimble and flexible and look back on lessons learned is crucially important to then manage the stressors of life in an ongoing fashion. And so we're taking deliberate steps now in this phase of recovery to look at all the lessons we've learned and how have we built upon the opportunities that did present themselves to create new and reimagined ways of delivering service and things that can sustain us and continue our excellent levels of service for the long term. And now it's part of our strategy moving forward, thankfully, due to some early planning. That's been very helpful.
Yeah, of course, the thing that's top of mind for me right now is the things that we've done to try to make it easier to provide public comment during city council meetings and to attend public events. So in the last couple of weeks, we've refined options for people to provide public comment at council meetings over Zoom, like where we're talking right now, over the phone. And then as we've opened, more facilities, we have it available in-person comment with a lot of physical distancing and care taken for people's safety. And so I think to your point, it's hard to imagine not allowing remote comment in the future and giving people more convenient ways to provide feedback to their city council on issues before the council. And then similarly, we just tried a couple of appointment-based public meetings. And, it's hard to imagine that we wouldn't incorporate appointments more just to manage people's time and give people some dedicated attention and more flexibility for staff to meet people where they want to be met and when it's most convenient for them. So I just think even within the engagement and communication piece, we've learned so much already, and hopefully can continue to take advantage of those tools.
Yeah, excellent point.
Yeah. So I guess what I wanted to do now is just show a couple of website resources, and then we can kind of close out our discussion here. Bear with me.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm sharing is our first of all, from the very beginning, as you know, Linda, we've tried very hard to keep our community informed about what the city's activities are. So very early on, in early March, we started a COVID-19 page on our website, and we've kind of grown it from there, starting with information about stay-at-home and safer-at-home orders, and then creating additional pages around how to be better neighbors and how to stay socially connected with people when you have to be physically distant and so on. And really what our attention's been now is on recovery. So if you go to, it's not up here right now, but if you were to go to arvada.org/COVID recovery, you will come to this page, which sort of provides, I'm gonna make the URL correct here. It's a little alias that we have. But if you go to COVID recovery, arvada.org/COVID recovery, you can come and sort of learn about our overall approach to recovery. A lot of the things that we covered in our conversation today, and it's a helpful background because I think, as you've mentioned, Linda, this is something that's going to be here for a while. Our recovery process is going to take not weeks or months, but perhaps even more than a year. And so we wanted to have a really solid plan in place that would be durable and last during that time. The other thing I wanted to point out, which you've alluded to, is our city services update. So I believe, and we'll test this in a second, but I believe it is arvada.org/services update. And here is a one-stop shop where you can go and find information about the different services we in-person services that we typically provide or have provided in the past, and what are some of the best ways to access those now. is it possible to access the service in person, or is it still one of the services that we're offering online or in a remote capacity? So I would encourage people to go here and read through these resources. And if all else fails, call our 720-898-7000 number during business hours to learn if a particular service is available in person. What we don't want is for you to come to city facilities with a question or a service need and not be able to have that satisfied. So those are some of the resources I thought I'd share. Anything else you'd add to that, Linda?
No, those are excellent, Ben. Thank you for sharing. And I to our citizens, our community, please refer to those sites. They're full of incredibly useful tools and information. And as we're all learning together, we ask for your feedback. We ask for your patience and your flexibility as well as we continue to navigate this together.
Well, I think that covers everything that I wanted to talk about. I can't thank you enough, Linda, for taking the time to have this conversation. And, I think it's probably worthwhile to, maybe check in again in the next month or two, see how things are going. But in the meantime, thanks very much. And as we're doing this on a Friday, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and thank you.
You bet, Ben. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.